transition again, I've asked Lydia and Lynette to sing. Can you remember the time where Saul was really tormented? I think he had demonic stuff happening, and David came and played on his harp. So please stay in this attitude. Let God just use the song and the music and the singing as we just still stay in the moment that God heals. I remember a couple of years ago, I closed my bedroom door. I waited for Linda to be gone, and I shouted, not at God, but to God. And I told him that this is a good time for him to send angels and come into my room. I really needed an encounter and a visitation, but I also knew as I was sort of like deburdening my heart with my shouts and my weeping and my crying, something was getting out of my system in a way. But I also knew God is not going to send angels. And then about 3-4 months later, when I had a prayer time, and the Lord just whispered me, so he chuckled, whispered, he said, "So did I visit you? Did I come? Because you cried that I should come." I said, "Lord, you did come. Not in the thunder, not in the storm, but in a different way." My prayer is that let's just take a moment, whatever. Sometimes just go blank. You don't have to think, man. You don't have to stress. You can't receive being anxious, and you receive when you just like a sponge in a way. So if you want to sit, it's fine. Let's just take a minute or two with the songs or whatever you've got. Amen. Just to conclude is to say that I was just sitting there whilst we were singing it to try and describe some of my sweetest Thanksgivings, some of my sweetest memories. And many of them, you know, that's what normally happens to me at night when I go to sleep. And I know how Thanksgiving is in my heart because I feel my tears in my eyes. That's how I feel about my daughters. They're not mine, they're God's people. But the source of some of my deepest thanksgivings is in my pain, where there used to be pain. I know that place. It's not an empty place. There used to be pain and suffering there. But with the grace of God, forgiving and refuse to be a victim, is where my thanksgiving and my love comes from. I don't know if it makes sense. There used to be suffering, there used to be pain, deep pain. And may God, in what is happening here, turn everything that has captured your soul and set you free. And embrace. Because God, that's what He works with. And He turns it. And that's what makes our worship costly. When you say, I love you, I worship worship you. To summarize, if we're going to have a team of any sorts in God's kingdom, we have to foster relationships through deep respect and love, and work through our bumps and our bruises and our differences. May God bless you. May healing settle on us all. In Jesus' name, amen. Lydia's going to come and talk a little bit about how the worship team and the worship leader can connect with the congregation. We're going to, because you can see, I mean, the Lord is doing surprise. I mean, He's working with our heads and our hearts. We're not 100% sure what He's busy worked with, but He's getting hold of our heads and our hearts, and He's mixing the whole lot up. But we would just like to hear what Lydia's got to say, because these are the people that are in that position, and many others too, but we just want to talk through that quickly.
Hi everyone. I just want to share some tips and tricks with you actually. I've called it tips and tricks. I've just got one sheet today. And I want to try and help. I might share some obvious things. You may think, oh, that's really obvious. It might remind you of something that you didn't think of, or it might help you just to sharpen on some stuff, or whatever. However you want to assimilate it, it's fine. We're going to talk a little bit about the worship team connecting with the congregation. It's one of my favorite things. So tips and tricks. The first thing I've got down here is that we must reset an us and them mentality. I think that's so important, because I know what it's like as a worship team. This congregation is just not worshiping today. Nothing you're going to do is going to tick the boxes for them today, right? And sometimes we can really get into a negative space about it. And I think it's just really, really important that we break down in our minds an us and them mentality. You understand what I'm saying by that? Remove as much, just some advice, okay? Remove as much distance as possible. Think about how you have laid out your venue, for instance. I think we were very intentional about how we thought this through, how we wanted to, allow enough space in front here for whoever's speaking to not feel claustrophobic. But this is not a nice distance here between this front chair and where you are facilitating from there. And especially in some of our churches, we are very blessed with high stages. It's horrible, actually. So do whatever you can to actually minimize the physical distance, because it helps you. It helps you. I mean, we had the option here with this reset and sharpen. To be honest, if I had my way, we'd be in the auditorium because of the sound, literally. So, I mean, I love good sound, and I think that it helps us as a worship team. If I had my way, we'd be all sitting in the auditorium now, few of us in a very large space, enjoying lovely sound, but feeling so far distant, And we had to make that decision in terms of the intimacy factor. So wherever you function, whatever your hall or your place looks like, think about that. It will help you. Be as close as you can. Not with one another necessarily, although that's also helpful, I think, but you don't want a space too far. But this will help you facilitate if that's not so far removed. Okay, worship teams. Okay, this is just a bit of a Lydia thing. I truly believe, actually, it's not just me. I was talking to Sia Fuya yesterday as well. The reason we practice teams, the reason we practice is so that we can worship freely. It helps us to connect with the people if we are not so focused on our music. I know for myself, if I don't know my songs, then I struggle not just to connect with God, I struggle to connect with the people. I'm not free. And that is why I believe in practice. I don't want to be the best. I wish, actually, I was the best. I wish I could play like Liberace at the back there, Who's that guy? Is it Liberace? He's a singer. Yeah, Paul, yeah. I'm talking about Paul, but I was thinking of some other name. But I wish I could, but I can't. Okay, I can only do what I do to the best of my ability so that I am free to connect. I want to be free to connect. I don't want to be stuck in my music, and I don't want my team to be stuck in their music either. It was hard for us. We had little time to find one another. Some of the music is not in our normal genre or style. Not all of us are musicians that can just switch between styles. So those things are difficult. We'll make it as easier for ourselves when we know our things. You form connection by looking at people. You can say what you want. When I look into your eyes, that's when I feel a connection. I know we can't look into one another's eyes from there to there, but we can at least help these guys to feel connected when we're at least looking at them. I find it more easy, very bad English, easier to lift my eyes a little bit, just above your heads from there. That way, I'm not staring at you, although sometimes I let my eyes glance. But if you struggle with that, if you're feeling intimidated or, just don't like that, then just let your eyes go a little bit above people's heads. It'll still give them a sense of connection, which I think is really important, to look up. And that also ties in with knowing your music, right? Because you can look up that way. I love what the Christian Center has done. They've put a monitor at the back of their sound desk with their lyrics on. So the whole team now has got zero excuse for being stuck in their music stands. They can lift their faces. They can literally, it's doing wonders for their connection factor. They were able to do that. You are maybe in your context not able to do that. But just be aware. Lift your face. Connect. Confidence is key. Please smile. It helps people to relax. It really does. Okay. Says Mr. Never Smile. Be relatable, worship teams. Be authentic and open your heart. It's the best way to connect. Be real, I don't know about you, but when I'm in a congregation, I can see when somebody's faking it up there. I can see it. I can see when there's nothing going on there. Lights are on, but no one's home. So just be real. Open your own heart. We spoke a lot about connection yesterday, so I don't have to go on to that. Okay. Worship leaders, we must stop telling people what to do. I really feel so strongly about that. Stop telling them how to worship. Stop, for goodness sake, stop telling them to lift their hands. Stop telling them to model it. Don't say it. People feel patronized. What's wrong with you? Why can't you worship today? And listen, I've been there. Eh? I mean, I would worship for you, given half a chance. I would, by hook or by crook, we're going to worship today, people. But you can't do that. And it doesn't work. Actually, people resist it. So please don't tell people what to do. And it creates distance, right? It's the opposite of what we want to do. Another thing is sometimes we, as teams or leaders, are presuming people are resisting us. Oh, I felt that lots of times. Especially with more reserved congregations. Some congregations are more reserved. And in those contexts, sometimes when you feel insecure, you feel like people are resisting. It's most probably not the case. We just have a perception. So I want to encourage you with that so that you can go think about it. Next time you're feeling like there's a resistance in the congregation, perhaps it's just your perception. And that might help you to overcome that and relax. Okay, we really, really, really need to reset our stage presence. We need a big chop on that one. What do I mean by stage presence? It's pure and simple what we model. Especially the vocal team. It is so important that we just move. The statue thing doesn't help. It doesn't help. It really doesn't help. If you're in your team struggling with people that just don't move because they're too shy, I almost want to say they really shouldn't be there. Because your singing is a two-edged sword. It's movement and sound. Really. I'm fortunate I can't do that. I don't have to subject you to my movement because I'm behind a keyboard. That's my excuse. But really, I think it's just, we need to help one another. You know, we almost need to, I'm saying this very carefully, we almost need to exaggerate a little bit. Because if you exaggerate a little bit, it actually comes across naturally. Test it. Maybe test it. You know, do what's right in your context. Like I say, some congregations are more reserved. Other congregations got no problem with this at all. Have you ever seen Tanzania Christian Center? I mean, those girls and guys, their bodies are engaging in worship. And it's powerful. So I will really want to encourage us with our stage presence. That's what I mean with stage presence. I'm not talking about your dress code. I'm not talking about your whatever. It's the way we engaging our bodies in worship. We are demonstrating something, okay? And our vocal teams are vital when it comes to that. As you take your congregation on a journey, invite them to come with you. What you say in the beginning of your set list is so important. And you need to think about it. You need to make sure it's theologically sound. Write it down if you have to. It really helps people because remember now, congregations are coming from all over the show, all over the place. And so just to settle, you know, some of us do it better than others, it's fine, but welcome people, connect, talk. It takes a while to get over the fear factor, but it's really helpful. I might be stating the obvious, but I just wanted to encourage you. Another thing is, another presumption that we also have is that people don't come to church expectant and hungry. Somebody said it over this weekend. I don't know if it was you, Morris. I don't know who it was, but somebody said that congregations oftentimes are more expectant than what we think they are. You know, so don't let that lodge in your mind that our congregation is not expectant, they're not hungry for God. Don't go into that negative space about your people. Let love cover that. Allow your heart to love them. And also don't judge their expressions of worship. Everybody expresses worship differently. That is one thing I've learned here at Christian Center through Marius, because he does not express his worship much, you know. But he's a worshiper through and through. And his heart is singing. Everything about Marius is wholeheartedly engaged in the worship, but it just doesn't look like it on the outside. Right? So, and that can disturb us as worship leaders until you get to know the person. So what I'm trying to say is don't judge your people's expression and lead your worship out of that place. Because then you're going to strive. Okay. Just a quick tip. Use your opening songs to gather people and say things and do things that will help them to connect with one another at the beginning of meetings. It really helps. A good few years ago, when we started our worship at 9 o'clock here at Christian Center, when I was still here every Sunday, we really struggled to get going. And we found that we had to battle through something before, you know, we could really engage, get the people to engage, or help people to engage. So what we did is we actually just instituted like a pre-service coffee thing. It did wonders for us because our people started to engage with one another beforehand. And that connection set the tone for this connection to start happening. So whatever works in your context, whatever you need to do, just think about how you can set a tone in your beginning. Use your opening song, maybe the period of time you have before that. say things that will help people to turn to one another and connect. Break the ice somehow. It might help. And then knowing your church's demographic and choosing songs that unlock celebration for them will bridge the gap and build connections. Can I say that again? Knowing your church's demographic and choosing songs that unlock celebration for them will bridge the gap and build connections. I was thinking about the lady that asked the question about the church with the elderly congregation. I was just thinking about that, and if I was leading worship in your church, I would be so hesitant to just shift and shake that thing. Because if it's working for your people, at the end of the day, we're serving God, but we're serving our congregations. Yes, you want to bring freshness in. Yes, we do need to look at that. Tread carefully. It's not about wanting to force old people to sing young people's songs. I've been there and I've done it. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Don't kill yourself trying to do that, Stick with what works. It's about the people. Anyway, just my 2 cents worth. Engage with people before and after meetings, worship teams. Worship teams, we are so bad at that. We come early, 7 o'clock, we're there, bring our guitars, we go through our rehearsals, head for the coffee, park there, or sometimes the holy ones will go into the prayer room. And then on the stage, we do our thing, we come down, listen to the sermon, afterwards pick up, off we go. It's not good. It's bad. Connect with the people. Connect with them beforehand. Connect with them afterwards. Okay. Move out of your comfort zone, because it's not easy for all of us. It's not as easy for all of us to do that. Approach people. Don't just stick to your friends. Don't just stick to your muso friends. Okay. And the last thing I want to say is invite feedback and receive it. Because it's one thing to invite it. It's another thing to receive it. We have to get over ourselves, people. Grow up in the Lord and build a culture of connectivity. That's me done. It's time to go.
Thanks, that's helpful. I just want to say one thing quickly, then we're going to have tea. And I always say that to preachers and to worship leaders. You are performers by nature. Stop this false humility. It's so off-putting when you try to act humble and God made you a performer. Perform. Preach. Be bold. The only rule is don't draw people to yourself, draw them to God. That's the only rule. I've been in meetings. Lolita's you're here. I came to Christian Center here one Sunday and Lolita led. That's why I spotted her. I don't know what's happening in your life really, but God gave you a gift. Because she sang boldly, she pulled me into worship. Sometimes we have a large meeting and then the worship leader is toned down and devotional. And I'm standing there and I don't know what is happening. So I want to say, use your motivation to perform. Like myself, I had to, if people say to me, I like to talk, because I can talk, and you don't even know how many thoughts I'm thinking. Till I had to admit to myself, I love to talk. And to preach, in fact. I would say, no, I don't have to preach. I don't think I have, but I have to, because I've got things to say. You saw Lynette here. I mean, she has to talk. So I want to say to you as worship leaders and singers, God made you to perform, but for His glory. When you are fake humble, that boldness Because something happens when those who lead us are bold and connecting with each other. You pull boldness out of us. I would say, if you talk about connection between the congregation and the people, it's all about boldness. To me, it's about boldness. Because I've been in a congregation where a leader will lead and another leader will come and the whole church. So the boldness stirs boldness. That's my 2 cents on this whole thing. And it's not soaking time. This is congregational worship. It does not work to, that's why I say this is a congregational worship talk. What happens when we gather? If your favorite is to go into a soaking experience in a room, this is not soaking time. I'm telling you now, it does not work. You and a few friends love that. But the rest of us, that's why you have some guy. I watch them. Most men, they stand like this. They're watching, what is happening here? They watch you having a soaking time. So I personally think to connect is what I'm just saying, is the leader and the team stirs something in all of us. And I would say, this is how I preach at Oak Hill. A few weekends ago, I started like this. I say, all of us face problems and difficulties. And Christians are not exempt from that. They also face problems and difficulties. And according to the Bible, the way you overcome difficulties is through patient endurance. But you can't patiently endure without God's help. He needs to strengthen you. Today, I want to talk about patient endurance. You see, I've just connected with you because I made it clear. I would say your first song you sing, you need to think about. As a communicator, I think about what comes out of my mouth when I talk first, because that's where we lose it. So I would say when you think about it, practice it, and then when it does not work, acknowledge it, because it won't always work.